I've got a BREVILLE toaster oven here. I believe the model is something like BOV 650 XL. They also make an 850 XL. Let me show you what's going on now. Here's the display. Unit's plugged in. Press the power button. Absolutely nothing. No display. The unit is dead. Now, what happens in these toaster ovens, BREVILLE, and a lot of other manufacturers, is the thermal fuse blows. It shouldn't, but if it does, it should be set up so that the circuit comes back on afterwards. But the fuses they have in here actually blow. It's not a circuit breaker type thing. It's not a thermal circuit breaker. It's a thermal fuse, and once it blows, you're out of luck. I'm going to attempt to fix this. If I can, that means I'm going to have to take it apart. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start removing all the screws that are on the back of this. There are something like 40 screws. There are a lot of screws on the back of this. I'm going to try to do as little as I can to get to the internal part of this. Again, this is electronics. If you don't know what you're doing, don't mess with it. Informational only. You could shock yourself. You could kill yourself. It's not worth taking the risk to open up electronics if you don't know what's going on. So I'm going to take out these screws. I'm going to show you what screws need to come out. I'm going to get the thing open. I'll show you where the thermal fuse is. We'll test it together and see if it's burned out. And then I'm going to try to find out if I can get it from Radio Shack or someplace online and replace it and see if it works. Okay, so if you like my videos, please thumbs up, subscribe, a like, go to my channel page, click on the support button and do a donate if you want to help me out. And it's now time to unplug this unit and start taking screws out. What I'm going to do is I'll remove all the screws. I'm going to put some masking tape next to each hole so that I know exactly where they go back. Big mistake, a lot of people take screws out, they don't know where to put them back in. So I'm going to take out the screws, masking tape them down, and then I'm going to show you what screws needed to come out, and we'll go from there. This is the back. There are 2 screws on the top left. You can see where I've got this marked in red. There are 3 screws on the side. 1 screw on the top right, 1 screw next to that. So there are really 4 screws on the top. And again, 3 screws on the side, 3 top, middle, and bottom. So we have 4 screws on the top and 3 screws on each side. Tape them up. Make sure you use a big screwdriver tip. These are really small screw heads, but they will strip. They're really cheap screws. Go slow. Don't strip the heads on them. Use a tip that will fit into the opening, or you'll end up ruining the screw heads. I've got the unit upside down, so this is really the front, but we got a couple screws in the foot. You got some screws over here, and there's probably 3 screws on the foot. I don't know what else I'm going to have to take off. I'm going to take off the 2 screws on this foot. I'm going to take off the screw in the middle. I'm going to take off the 3 screws on the back foot. That's why you really need to label everything. Get a marker, label everything, tape it all down so that you can put this thing back together. The back screws are extremely long, so they're going to take a little bit of time to remove. On the front screws, it's a little tricky. You've got this screw over here, and then you've got this screw here, and you wonder why nothing's coming out. Why? Because you have to pull this little rubber piece out. That's why you want to label everything. And hiding behind here, a few more screws. Label everything. Tape it all down. I've got all 4 feet removed. The screws definitely do not come out easily. As I said before, they don't come out easy. They get stuck in this cheap metal over here, and the screws are very cheap also. So I try to get the cover off of this thing. I don't know if I can. If I might have to take off more screws. If I do, I will let you know. This is the back unit. The power cord is down here. Do not do what I tried to do and bend this thing upward, because you're going to actually bend the metal. It will not come out. This is the back panel. We have the 2 little rubber pieces on the back. You need to remove screw 1, bottom, 2, 3, 1 on the side, 1 on the side, 1 on the side, 1 on the top, 1 in the middle, 1 on the left side, and then by the label, 1 over here, 1 in the middle, and 1 over here. And I'm hoping now that this back piece is just going to slide out or pull out, and it looks like it is. So I'm not going to be able to do that and hold the camera without using a tripod, but I'm going to try to get this back panel out now and see if I can get into the unit. It does take a little maneuvering. I've got the left side out. You can see I've kind of got the left piece out, and it's stuck on the right now, so something's holding it in. Probably this bent-in corner over here. But take your time, slowly bend these sides out a little bit, and try to get this back panel off. There it is, people. I was able to bend the back panel off, get it out of there, pull the sides apart, and I don't even know if that was necessary because the place that I need to work on now is over here. This is the side panel, and obviously this is my thermal fuse over here. There's the circuit board. I'm going to try to get this cover off. I would like to get the cover off so I can work on it, but this is the panel, and this is the area that we're going to have problems with. I believe that's the thermal fuse in there. And once I get this thing opened a little bit, let me show you what it looks like. Once I get it opened, if I can, then I'll start working on the fuse. I'm definitely not sure if I'm going to be able to get this cover off. I know other people are able to, but that's the thermal fuse in there. It's just sitting in a little compartment. I'm going to try to pull that out of this opening in here and see if I can remove it, and if I can, then I'll try to get a part number off of that, and I'll also see if it's shorted out, or not shorted out, or if it's burned out. And that is most likely what is causing this oven not to work. A $5 part that's stopping a $180 oven from working. I am looking into the back of the oven. Now, let me show you. This is from the back, this is obviously the left side, but this would be the right side if you had the oven turned around facing towards you. So you've got the electronics in the left side. Now look inside this unit. You're going to see two screws over here, two black screws. You need to remove these two screws so that you can remove the bracket that is holding your thermal fuse inside. So I'm going to undo these two screws over here. The two screws are removed, so let's go over here. This is the bracket I was talking to you about, and it looks like that's our thermal fuse hiding inside this bracket, and it's connected, I believe, to wire nuts. So let me take off the bracket now, and we'll look and see what's going on in here. Again, electronics, circuitry, you could hurt yourself. These are really sharp edges on the case. So I'm not responsible if you kill yourself or cut your finger off, but if this is saving you $180 to buy a new one, go to my channel page and click on that support button and help me out. Okay, so this is how the bracket is held in case you want to refer to the video if you take this thing off and forget how it went back on. Now I'm going to take the bracket off and we'll pull this material away and see what the fuse looks like. The circuit board looks pretty good. It doesn't look like anything's burned on there. All right, the moment of truth. That is the thermal fuse. Hold on, got a phone call. The moment of truth. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get the leads on here, but this is a meter. This is the thermal fuse. No connection. The buzzer's not going off. No connection. I'll try it the other way just to show you. Absolutely nothing. So that's the thermal fuse. What does it say on here? Well, it's a 10 amp thermal fuse. Some people have said they bought one from Radio Shack. I don't know if they sell a 10 amp fuse. If they don't, you do not want to screw with using a 15 amp fuse if that's all they've got. Only replace with what it comes with. There are a few sites online. You can do a search for the part, for the thermal fuse, for the part number, for the model number, and you'll find a 10 amp fuse, but don't go with a 15 amp. It's way too dangerous. So it's going to take me maybe a few days to order this thing. And how is this held in? I think the new one comes with the bracket, and then you're going to have to go in there and do some crimping. Hopefully I'll be able to show you that in the video once the part comes in. But at this point, it appears that the thermal fuse is the reason this is not working. And while I've got some time, I'll go in there and clean this up for the person I'm trying to fix this for. And I'll complete the video in a couple days when the part comes in. Everybody, it's January 19th, the day before Crazy Man gets into office, and I ordered this part December 7th, so it took almost 42 days to come from China. If you want to have faster service, it costs about $15, and you just buy it locally in the U.S., but I went the cheap route, $5.99. I had to buy it directly from China, and it has arrived, so I'm going to try to install it. Remember when I put all the masking tape with the notes and the screws on there on the top and the bottom? It's a good thing I did, because 6 weeks later, 5 weeks later, I have no idea how to put this thing back together. So let me get started and do the unboxing here. We'll see what the part looks like. And then we are going to go in the oven and replace the part and test it out, see if it works. I'll say I'm impressed. I bought one item for $5.99 and they sent me 5. So if I was repairing a lot of these, this would be a very good deal. Or if I mess up on the install, then I've got extra ones. So overall, I'm very happy. It was worth it. It's too bad that it took them so long to ship it out, but if you're going to repair a lot of these things, then this is really the way to go. Just buy it directly from China. Again, $5.99 for one part. If you bought this in the U.S., you're looking at $15, $30, like $75 worth of parts there. Crazy. When we left off, the thermal fuse part is under here. I closed it up so I would remember how it goes back together again. But I'm going to pull this sleeving off, slide it down carefully so you don't damage it. You're going to need to use it again. And when you're finished, it's going to go back in this little compartment in here. It's a lot easier, believe me. It's a lot easier to, if you do this, take pictures or video so you can look back and see how this whole thing came apart or goes together again. So you can do it the exact same way. I said it in the original part of the video. This is really important. You see over there it says 172C. This is important. Do not substitute the values, the numbers, for a different temperature range. Now this is put in here as a thermal fuse to stop the thing from shorting out and starting a fire. And a lot of people on the internet joke about how they just went to Radio Shack and bought a part and put it in here. It's really dangerous. Make sure that you use the exact replacement. This was designed a certain way to work the right way. So only replace with the exact part number for your temperatures. Again, 172C for this, but they come in different ranges. So what I'm going to do now, you can see this is crimped in. I would like to solder it, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just use I'm going to try to use a lug and try to clamp onto what I've already got here. It's the exact same piece on here is inside here, but it's really tight, so I can't really show that to you with one hand. But I'm going to cut this out now, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like afterwards. Using a wire lug, you can do this however you want, but me, I'm going to be using a wire lug. I'm going to cut off the plastic, I'm going to cut off the end of this, and I'm going to crimp the new part onto the old part lead. I don't have to start messing with cutting this wire and stripping it back, which I could do, but I'm just going to take the easy way out. This part has a line on it, a little marking, so I put a mark over here, just so that when everything is cut out, you don't forget which way to put it back in the right way. That's the lug. I don't know how well this is going to work, but I'm going to make an attempt at it right now. There is the crimped on part. There's the bad part that I'm replacing. Yeah, I wish that I had a better way to do this, and I know there are better ways, but I just want to get this thing done and out of the way. And I might have a problem squeezing this little piece over here through this material. I'm not going to know until I cut this part off, and if I can't get it through, then I'm going to have to clamp this thing down a little bit or come up with a different idea. But right now that is just part of the lug that I'm using. And I did not cut the length of the lead. I just pushed it in there and clamped right down. I crimped right down onto the original lead. So again, so I don't have to mess with cutting off this part and wire fraying or coming apart or the insulation pulling off. What I did with this one is I cut off the lug, so all I'm using is the internal part of it. And because I wasn't able to push it through the heat shrink. So you might want to do that on both of these before you even start. I think I'm going to have to do some trimming on this one so that it's going to go through the shrink material here. That's the finished project or product. That is the final crimp. And it looks like it's going to go into the shrink material. It's going to be a little tight, but it's going to fit in. I did some trimming over here. The lead is a little bit shorter than it was originally, but that's not a big issue. The issue is that you have something very secure. You really don't want to use electrical tape on here. If you have a better way to crimp this, go for it. If you don't, you do want it crimped. I would not solder. Solder melts at about 400 degrees. I'm sure this thing's not going to get 400 degrees in here, but you want a good mechanical crimp. So now I'm going to slide the shrink over this thing. I've got the wires back in the compartment. Normally when I work on something, I like to test it out before I close it up, but if this doesn't work, then it's just going to get thrown away. So I'm not going to take a chance of powering this thing up and starting a fire or burning something or shocking myself. I'm going to close the case up now, put all the screws back in, and then you and I together will plug this in and test it out and see if the repair worked. Again, I just want to say, mark everything, even if you're really good at this stuff. You don't care if you put the screws in the right way. If I didn't have these markings over here right now and notes on my masking tape, I would have no clue how to put this back together, and I would struggle. Always good to take notes and photographs and video. I closed it up, but I forgot that this bracket goes in here that will hold this inside against the this panel here. So let me show you what it looks like. I just bent these little legs outward. There is no way that I'm going to be able to slide this thing inside that tiny opening. That didn't sound right. Okay, so I'm going to put this over the cable, position everything, and then I'm going to bend the legs downward. The bracket is now mounted. Again, there is no way that you're going to be able to slide this bundle inside that bracket unless you bend those legs outward and then bend them back. And then you will mount the two screws, and then you can start putting the back on. There we go. I've got the back screws mounted. Now the hard part is going to be to get the bottom screws lined up, to get the feet on, and to get the side and upper back screws, because it doesn't really want to clamp down properly. Remember, this is put together by a robot. The power screws are shot in there, so it's not the easiest thing to take apart and put back together. This problem I've had so far, this is the right corner, the right top corner, where this thing was bent originally, and well, it's kind of caved in. Okay, maybe somebody, I don't know if I did that or if they did that. This is caved in, and I'm just having a real hard time getting everything to line up on the right side. Again, I'm not sure if that came from the factory. I'm sure it didn't, so that's my biggest problem, is this corner, getting this panel down so I can line these three screws up. And while I'm doing all of this, I'm sitting here waiting. Somebody told me that two famous TV people were just fired today, and there's nothing on the net about it, so I'm waiting to get some good gossip news, celebrity news. I've got 4 more screws on the top. Then I'm going to have to squeeze this thing down, and then I'll be working on the back 4 feet. And then it's almost done. All screws on the back are now tightened down. Make sure that when you insert your screws, you do not tighten everything down until all the screws are in, and go around to each one of them and turn them in a few turns each time, and then go to the next screw. Mainly because this just does not line up properly or easily when you're putting it back together. And if you tighten down your screws one by one, you might not be able to get this thing to seat properly and fit. Don't forget, there is a screw that goes in the bottom center and a screw that goes in the bottom center. You're going to have to bend the sides over and squeeze it together so that you can line those holes up. Part is mounting the 4 feet. You can see I labeled them originally 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I taped up the screws so they wouldn't fall out. I think they're different length screws, so you want to put them back in right after you take them out so that you have them lined up with the right holes. and the right lengths and label everything so you can put it back together easily. Almost done. There it is. All the screws are put in and the feet are on. I'm going to plug this thing in. I'm kind of nervous, I'll tell you. I'm definitely nervous, but I'll plug it in and see if it powers up. Here we go. I will be very honest with you. I am worried. I don't know if it's going to start up. I've got something here in case I need to unplug it or put out a fire. But here we go. I'm going to plug it in now. We're going to see if it powers up, beeps, does anything, catches on fire, sparks. Silence. Plugging it in. Oh. Hi. What the heck is this? Hi. I don't know how this thing works. Oh, I thought it was saying hi. Maybe it's showing the high temperature. Oh my God. 325, 350. Did I fix this? Oh my goodness. What is this start and cancel? Let me put my hand in here. I don't feel any heat. Don't feel any heat, but I'm going to press the start button. Preheating. I don't know if I feel any heat yet. I don't feel anything. I feel heat. Oh my gosh, you know? Whoa, am I amazing. Alright, this is the end of the video. This is how to fix your $800 or whatever this thing is, fairly expensive toaster oven, and for $6. Please, I spent a lot of time making this video to help people out. If this saves you some big bucks, do me a favor and thumbs up, subscribe, and the most important thing, since I put a lot of time into this, go to my channel page, click on the support button, and leave a donation if you want to. I would appreciate it. Thank you. Good luck.